So thanks again, Peg. As we get started, can you introduce yourself to our family of faith? I know some are familiar with you and others may not be, but introduce yourself and share a little bit about your work at Bridge and your leadership there.
Thank you. Thank you, Kendra, for inviting me. I'm Peg Gagnon. I'm the Executive Director of Bridge for Community Life. Many of your congregants know me and know our organization. It wouldn't be without the First Presbyterian Church at 1901 Vine Street that we would be here, because you were our shelter for the first several years when we were just a fledgling nonprofit wanting to serve those with disabilities in our community. And so we were with the church, I believe, through 2009, and then we relocated to a building that we purchased out on Brocky Drive, which is still we still own the building, and that's our headquarters, and that's where the home base is of our largest program, our day program, which is currently suspended due to the pandemic.
Great. Thank you. So getting to that pandemic, it's been a disruption for everyone, but knowing the population you serve, all the wonderful people that you serve, and the extra risk that they entail, can you share with us what it's been like for Bridge and for your clients over the last year, what you've experienced, what you'd have to give up, and so on?
Absolutely. I prepared a little bit for this earlier today, even though I've had this email for a while, and it is an emotional topic, to be honest with you. But one thing I have found that's been an interesting revelation is that the losses and the effects of the losses on people with disabilities are probably the same for people without disabilities. So it's one area where we can find a lot of congruence and unity, no matter what your ability is. It's just will have a different ability to cope with the difficulty, and everyone, depending on their age and health, has a different impact, could have a different impact if they should contract COVID. But I will speak today I'll speak directly from our experience, from the client's viewpoint and the staff's viewpoint. From a client standpoint, COVID's been very, very devastating for that population. If you have a disability, you are not more likely to contract COVID, but if you contract COVID, you are multiple times higher to have a severe consequence of contracting COVID. That could be, and what I mean by severe is either long haul COVID, which can impact your thinking and your organ systems, to hospitalization, to intensive care stay, to actually death. So this is of all the categories of people with underlying health conditions, intellectual disability ranks right up there as number one, with having the worst results should that population contract COVID. Now, that being said, not everyone's going to get COVID, and there are people without disabilities that may be exposed and not get it. But what's so confounding about this virus, and it's confounding for every age group, is you don't know which one of you are going to be one that will be severely impacted by it. So it's like playing Russian roulette with someone's health. And that's how I know that sounds sort of dramatic and made for TV movie kind of scenario, but that's, to be honest with you, that's the responsibility that I've been carrying as we started this, is to lead the organization with our board of directors to a safer port, whereby we can safely get together again and in good conscience and good ethical decision-making, bring people back together again. Not prematurely, but when it's safe to do so. Now, saying that, everybody has a different opinion of what safe is or what everyone should be doing. And a guardian gets to decide, a mom and dad or a guardian gets to decide exactly what their son or daughter with a disability gets to do. An agency carries a much greater burden in discerning what we should and shouldn't do. You can go out with a mask, but should you go out with a mask? Should you go out without a mask? I mean, these are all the you can, but should questions. And as the leader of the organization, and as someone who has lost a child who had a disability who was age 20, I realized that ultimate outcome is not reversible. So I, for some reason, was in this leadership role during this time in our history. And I do somewhat feel that was an experience of mine that can help me remain very sober when I look at the decisions that are in front of us. So that's just the reason is that you don't get a second chance once you've lost someone, whether it's your spouse or your child or your grandmother, whoever that is. Nice. That's universal for all of our victims of COVID at this time, which is very, very sobering and sad. I'd say the loss for our clients is really threefold, and it's also the same for the staff as well. Of course, there's the loss of face-to-face interaction. I mean, as you said, even if you have a mask on, if you're standing at least 6 feet away, it feels like you're together right now. That was lost for all of the staff. We're all working remotely from home, and that was also lost for our clients who we've recommended that they remain at their homes. There's also a big loss of routine and structure. Now, you and I, we might be working more independently on our own. We can set our daily schedule. We know, I've been working a long time. I know you got to set the alarm clock. You got to get up, got to go to bed at night. You have to do all those things. But people with disabilities, that structure went away, and it's more difficult for them without, real a strict guardian there that isn't going off to work or has to work at home and all multitasking. That structure is lost, and I know that that's very disorienting for people with disabilities. And lastly, there's been a loss of certainty. Not that we ever had certainty. Certainty has been a word, and uncertainty has been a word that I've spent a great deal of my life since my daughter actually was born with a disability in the late 80s, of really thinking about certainty. And there's really only one certainty we have. We all know we're going to pass at some point. And but there is the loss of that certainty of knowing, well, Bridge starts on Monday, it's done on Friday, we're going to do the dance at the church on Saturday. That isn't with us right now. So there's having to learn to cope with that loss of certainty. I do think that we will come back closer to what it used to look like, but I don't think that's going to happen in rapid succession for our population, and because it will take time for people to get vaccinated. It'll take time for people to decide to take the vaccine, and then we will have to figure out how are we going to serve those individuals with disabilities that choose not to be vaccinated or can't wear a mask. And we've made those decisions already. We're pre-planning how we will have some service to offer every sort of person with a disability, no matter where they fall in those guidelines. So we're really happy about that. As I said, these are all the same for the staff as well. The staff had an extra burden, is that because we had to do a tight readjustment financially, because the economic engine of our program was that day program, and that had to cease immediately, is that many of our staff, all of our staff, we all took a hit in some way. We all took less hours, or we all took less wages, and some of us took both. And some of us had to go on furlough for a while till we could build up another program to bring them back. And I've really been appreciative of all of the hardship that the staff has gone through. And we've offered a lot of support to the staff through our paycheck protection program. We've got a second paycheck protection program. Anything that we can do to help give the staff support this time. We started another program called Bridge to Home Services, where we provide safe and essential one-to-one support in people's homes who have disabilities. That was founded as a partnership between Bridge for Community Life and Dr. Madeline Gagnon, a leading pediatrician and general doctor for people with disabilities, youth and young adults with disabilities at Gillette Children's Specialty Clinic. She's the assistant medical director there. And she's also the infectious disease leader in that community. We've been greatly helped by her insight and her impact in guiding us in developing this home-based program so that people could get some relief from 24-hour caregiving as we went forth. So we're very, very fortunate that we were able to call on those partnership. You were asking me what the effect of all this is. The effect is, for all of us, greater stress. It's just darn stressful. More TMJ, more headache, more neck ache. You can't get a massage. It's hard to go out and go to the gym. There's just our ways of coping with stress we've had to be creative and find other ways. For people with disabilities, sometimes that can show up in a decompensation in their mental health outlook. So, and often persons with disabilities can't tell you that they're anxious. They can't tell you that they're down. They can't tell you that they're perseverating and thinking over and over and over again about something. What they do is they show you through their behavior. They might cry more often. They might sleep more often. They might act out more often. And of course, the isolation is so great for them because they're home with just their family and their guardians that they often lose some of the skills that they had learned and achieved throughout their life. So there's that loss of the skills as well. Because we launched this safe and essential home care business, Bridge to Home Services, that was a great relief to those families whose young adults were facing, more severe mental health issues. And we also have virtual classes that we have for many, and some of those clients just weren't engaging with this medium, that we're doing. So we were so grateful that we could offer the family some amount of relief from 24-hour caregiving. And so that's been a really good thing about it as well. It's been an increased time of stress for the staff too, because all of us have had to learn to do new things in new places. And there is challenges with that. We've had to rearrange our schedules. We've had to learn how to teach in day services and life skills through a Zoom platform. We've had to have art classes with everything that you can just find in your art. What can I make with this? And what can I make with this? So it's been a real challenge. And I'm so proud of the staff because they've all stepped up to the challenge and they've all figured out how a way in which they can do their job. We've had to repurpose some of our staff. Some of our staff were in our day program, so they had a very structured routine, 9 to 3, Monday through Friday, same clients. We repurposed them as home health direct support professionals. So now they're on their own and they have to go one-on-one into people's homes. So they have to learn. They're living those 4 to 6 to 8 hour shifts up close and personal with a family, and that's a very intimate connection. And we've made sure that everyone is really safe there. We provide all complimentary PPE to all the staff, face shields, health grade masks, gloves, and we also provide that for the clients as well. So our overarching theme for this whole time has been safe services, safety first, big letters flashing, safety first. And that means safe services, safe staff, and of course, sustainability. We've had to figure out how can we be sustainable, through this part.
Yeah.
Those have been some of the stresses and some of the effects of the stress, but you did ask me what goodness came out of it.
Yeah, we're exploring this theme of there has, been so much disruption and grief. As you rightly pointed out, it manifests differently for each of us, but everyone's had disruptions. But there's also been grace and goodness, that creative way. We think of it as God using chaos, right? Bringing goodness out of chaos. And so we're also trying in this season to claim that as well. So what are some of the goodness amidst the chaos that Bridge and Bridge's clients have experienced?
Well, I think the best that our group brings is that it's really hard. You can only be transparent. A person with a disability isn't going to lie to you. They're not going to paint a rosier picture. They're not going to paint a deadlier picture. You get, they're going to be very, very open and honest with you. But I am so proud and so awed by all of the resilience that I've seen demonstrated in the clients and in our staff. I do talk to a lot of parents every week, and they are stressed. And they are really stressed. And I try to point out to them how resilient they are and how resilient their children are. None of us have lived through anything like this. And it's so concerning sometimes as you're sitting here looking out at a beautiful sunshiny day, and yet you realize there's still a lot of illness in the community here. And unless you're fully vaccinated and you still wear a mask and keep 6 feet distance and remember to do all those things, you are at risk of contracting this. And so I do see a lot of resilience in there. And I also see a lot of new skill development. We didn't have virtual classes before, and I didn't know how to go on a Zoom. I didn't know how to let anybody in from a waiting room. I didn't know how to share my screen. I have learned so many new skills, and so have the clients. I was watching a class the other day, and they are really navigating technology in ways that I couldn't 10 months ago or 12 months ago. So I was really pleased to see the technology skills that the clients have picked up, and they are, they're good at it. They're really, really good at it, and they're enthused, and they love the class activities. They get to pick the class topics. So I'm really, really, really pleased that they've developed new skills. They're resilient, and they have been able to adapt. Another really good skill for all of us is to be able to adapt to whatever our conditions are now. And what's also confounding and challenging about this is that conditions are changing. From a planning standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, 6 months feels like 6 years from now. Or look what you were thinking back at Thanksgiving versus what you're thinking now at Easter. I mean, it's different. It changes so quickly. So there is, you have to know how to adapt to the changing environment as it goes along. I think one of the most joyful events was our Come and See Santa, which we traditionally do at the church. And Linda Redding, one of your congregants, gets the church beautifully decorated with all sorts of volunteers. And we have a robust, jolly Santa. And then we have Mrs. Claus, also known as Jody Branson, there. And they were able to do that all on Zoom this year. And I mean, even Mrs. Claus had cookies baking in her kitchen while you were visiting with Santa. So Santa could keep the conversation going for 10 minutes, and Mrs. Claus could come in and help with the conversation and share her cookie recipe. It brought tears to my eyes because here was the community really stepping in. And of course, First Presbyterian has really stepped in for us on many, many levels. And so I felt that was one of the most joyful times we've ever had. But there's lots of joy every day. I got an email the other day from a mother whose son wasn't doing very well at the beginning before we had home services. And he was regressing greatly. And we started coming into his home 3 days a week in the afternoons, and he has blossomed, and the family has blossomed. And she sends me emails filled with hearts and flowers, and you've really made a difference. You didn't stop. You found a way to do it. And I think I think that has been beneficial to get that positive feedback as well, and really see the effects of going the extra mile and how that can greatly enhance a family's time right now during this stressful time of being mostly at home.
Yeah, it just strikes me that all the things you're affirming are us going deeper in a lot of ways into those, I'll call them God-given gifts of resilience and finding joy and adaptability, right? We've been pressed, right? God didn't want this, but when we're pressed, that strong base that God has given us rises up. And to hear that how you're seeing it in your clients and staff is wonderful.
Well, and I've had to push deeper in that area personally here because I'm a very optimistic person, and I want things just to be great for everybody all of the time. But this was bigger than my optimism. The pandemic and its impact was much greater than my optimistic outlook. And because it could so radically impact our clients' lives or their guardians' lives or our community's life, that I had to really dig deep and be much more of a realist in my communication with staff and family. And I think that was a side of me that they had not seen. Because when you're built, I mean, they might have been in the years ago when we were building, but we had built to a very sustainable level, and things were rolling just like a well-greased engine, if you will. And then we had this setback, and then it was sort of we had to kind of look at the landscape and figure out where we needed to go. And I knew at this point I had to really to the best of my ability, and the board, I give this credit to, is that we really had to manage expectations that we didn't really even know what the expectations were. You know, it was, CDC wasn't clear. Every state was different. Every town the school district did it differently. So it really took a lot for all of us in leadership roles to really dig deep and figure out what were our values around keeping our clients safe and mentally engaged. If we physically couldn't be with them, how could we keep them mentally engaged with us? And that's where these classes became very, very important, in our Zoom dances. And we do a lot of Facebook's bingo and music and all sorts of fun things, which I find very energizing. They really are better than a massage all along. But I think there's been one spirit in our company that's been there from the beginning. And sometimes when you're doing things in our industry, when you deal with people with disabilities, they're always told what they can't do. Oh, she won't, I'm talking to my daughter, she won't walk, she won't talk, whatever that is. You always hear as a parent, oh, what isn't going to happen or won't likely happen. In this beautiful little nonprofit, we have always looked at what can we do? What can we do right now? And that's how we jumped in full force into the pandemic last March, when we closed our door on March 13th, 51 or 52 weeks ago, whatever it is. We're coming up on that. And it takes my breath away when I think about it. But not once did we lag. When we got together and met as a leadership team and then started talking with the staff, we thought, okay, what can we do? And that staff built that virtual class system within 4 weeks. We were up and running. And with some support from our community foundation and some of our board members, we were able to get the technology in place. We were able to get curriculums in place. It was a beautiful thing to see, and that's becoming a big part of our business right now. And it's keeping our clients engaged with us. As I said, our professional partners have been great. Dr. Gagnon coming in was a great relief to me, because it's as a layperson, I didn't know all the impact of the virus would have on our constituents, and you don't want to put anybody in danger, and yet you want to keep moving forward. You want to be doing more. You want to offer more opportunities. How can we do that? And then, of course, we were quite lucky that I wrote several applications with the team for COVID relief funding, and we were the recipient of some good COVID relief. So financially, it's worked out for this year, but we realized the ramping up of getting back to normal is going to take longer than just the next 6 months. I've just learned not to count on that. So we've got to plan really strategically for the next 1 to 3 years on how can we grow back to where we were, because our strongest program, that day service program, is a congregate program. It involves 40, 50, 60 people inside that building every single day. That's changed. So there'll be new guidelines around that. And it's one of the areas that we really are thinking a lot of how we can safely do that. And it led to another development for us, which I think is going to be a long-term positive for our families, is that because we pivoted with virtual, and we pivoted and started to go into home services, one-on-one safe and essential care inside the home. It got us thinking about a long-term goal that Bridge for Community Life had when it was just meeting once a month in the church fellowship hall. We had no programs. It was 2004 or 2005. The building was up. And we always had come back to housing. And now with this second company called Bridge to Home Services, we can now make some progress in starting to build a sustainable housing program long-term for our families whose young adults have disabilities. Our parents are aging, and 80% of our adults in our adult program, who range in age between 20 and 55, 80% of them are residing with their aging mother and father. So we know that eventually mom and dad won't be able to continue to provide that kind of care physically, maybe not even supplement that care financially. And eventually will pass. And so we have to help the family. We want to really help the family start to think about what would the next step in housing be for their adult son or daughter once mom and dad are no longer able to provide that. And that's been an extremely positive outcome out of the pandemic. I think the pandemic catalyzed us to really bite into that subject, because that's not going to be readily solved. That's a long-term issue that has, we have over 50% of our families want to have their child placed in housing outside of their home within the next 2 years. So you've got there's a lot to do there. But the biggest obstacle to that is always finding great direct support professionals that can help support that person in whatever home they decide to live in. If they decide to live in an apartment, over the garage with mom and dad, get their own home and live with an adult sibling. Home will look different for everyone. But what doesn't look different for everyone is everybody needs some support. Someone might need all day and all night support. Some people may just need a touch in the morning to make sure they've got their meds and their food and they're on their way to their job. But we do know support is needed. And so I think from a company standpoint, in a mission, it really moved us in that direction. And that's daunting for me. I'll be honest for you. That is a daunting project, but it is a very important project, and we mustn't stop working towards that.
Yeah, an important next step. So I'm glad to hear that. Well, as we wrap up, any final thoughts on how you've noticed during this time helpful ways to navigate all the grief and the goodness that are intertwined? What's helped you journey through this, or helped your clients journey through this?
Well, I'm a big believer in having some quiet time every day. Now, that being said, I don't get a lot of extra time right now because when you work at home, there's always work to do. Your computer is right there. So it's luring you in to see what next has to be done. But I do think everyone should get thoughtful. If you're a soulful person and you want to read scripture or a good book about in spirituality and things like that, that's helped me through many different times of my life. I am a big believer in meditation. No, I don't meditate for hours on end. My goal is to get 10 minutes in at some point during the day, if longer. But I did buy myself now a recording of it so I can do a little bit more. I'm a big believer in baby steps in this area, because so many of us have really daunting responsibilities whether we're homeschooling, we're schooling our children and working at home, or we're taking care of grandchildren, or we're working and 2 jobs. We have a lot of responsibilities that take up most of our day. But I'm a big believer that you can just squeeze out 10 minutes here or half an hour there would be is maximum, really, for me. But if you can get away with yourself and just start to do some self-renewal, it will give you. And of course, it's really important to get your rest. It's hard for me to fall asleep at night, but I have got to get my rest, and then I can keep going. But I take it a day at a time. I didn't rewrite the book by any means. It's a day at a time, and handling the priorities that are in front of me at this time. And I would encourage everyone to do it that way. I mean, that's been a successful strategy for many people.
Deep wisdom. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for the time and for the update on how Bridge is doing and navigating and bringing creative new approaches and revisiting and reviving longtime dreams. We look forward to continuing to partner with you.
Thank you. I just have one last statement. I want you to remind your congregants that even though we're not physically together, you are with us. And I feel your strength, and I feel your care, and I feel your love. Thank you.
Thank you.